everybody. Welcome back to the Mindful of You podcast. This is episode 57, Lessons I Learned from Disney's Encanto. So at the time this episode's being released, I will be going to Disneyland like a week later. If you know me, I go a lot. I love it. It's so fun, feels like home. My husband and I love spending time there. I also love their movies. I've done lessons I learned from Soul, lessons I've learned from Elemental, and today we're talking about Encanto. I think I could talk about every single Disney movie and there would be something to pull from. So I'm not going to recap this movie story-wise. I'm just going to talk about 6 lessons I learned from this movie, and we'll go from there. So the first lesson I wrote is that someone is always looking up to us. So a really sweet part of the movie that I don't think is talked about often is Mirabel's relationship with her little cousin, Antonio. So Antonio's a little boy. I think he's like 5. He's adorable. And at the beginning of the movie, he's going to get his gift. And he's really nervous and he's really scared. And he wants Mirabel to walk with him and be with him. And it just made me wonder, like, are there any children or friends or coworkers or whatever that, like, look up to me that way? And who do I look up to that way? Like, I think of, honestly, even my husband or my parents. Like, sometimes I just want someone holding my hand and walking with me. And I hope I can be that for somebody else as well. I think he looks up to her because she's so nice and open and is just his friend, even though he's a little kid. And I think that little relationship is beautiful. So I wish I lived a little bit closer to my nieces and nephews so I could be even closer with them. But I do have a good relationship with them, so that's fun. And then I do my husband's side. I've got nieces and nephews really close, so it's fun to spend time with them as well. The second lesson I learned is that we cannot carry a load alone. So one of my favorite songs from this movie, maybe my favorite, is Surface Pressure, I think is what it's called. And Louisa sings it, and it's the one with all the dancing donkeys in it. And Louisa is the middle child, so I think there's a little bit of implication there, but her gift is that she is super strong, physically strong. So she carries stuff, like enormous stuff, like a bunch of donkeys at once. And she expresses to Mirabel that it's a lot and that she feels like she has to be strong and carry everything so that everybody else can be okay. I think this is something a lot of people experience, including myself. I feel like I've felt like this before, but I don't think as much as many other people have. A lot of people feel like they have to be the strong one because of things happening in their family or in their friend groups. They feel like they have to be the one to stay strong, not show emotion, not show that they're hurting. But the reality is nobody can carry a load alone. So I think there's a couple lessons that can be pulled from this, which is if you are struggling, ask for help. There's a difference between, in the last episode I talked about murmuring and complaining, and there's a difference between that and just asking for help because you're struggling. And that is totally something that we should do if we're having a hard time, is reach out to our community and our circles and see if somebody can help. My sister just had a baby, and I feel like she's such like a strong person on her own, but she's also strong because she knows that it's okay to ask for help, that it's okay to call my parents and see if they can come help or go over and stay with them. And I think that knowing when to ask for help is actually a sign of strength. And then the other thing I thought we could pull from that is looking at the people in our lives who do seem to carry it all and making sure that they know they don't have to and that you're there to help. Okay, the third lesson I learned from Disney's Encanto is no one is perfect and no one has a perfect life. So Mirabel's sister Isabella, I think she's the oldest, is super beautiful. She has long silky hair, and her gift is she can make like flowers and plants grow out of nothing. So she and Mirabel do not get along because Isabella can come off as a little cocky and a little self-serving, and she's always like kind of digging at Mirabel. I'm not super nice to her, honestly, and I think that's okay to say. And so Mirabel gets frustrated with that, but she's also frustrated because she feels like her older sister has everything. Mirabel didn't get a traditional gift like the rest of her family did. And so Isabella has the gift. She's also supposed to marry a really handsome guy. And according to Mirabel, she just has it all. And eventually, Isabella kind of confides in Mirabel, not in the same way Luisa did. It kind of just comes out because it has to, but she tells her like she doesn't want to marry that guy. And she feels pressure like she has to be perfect for her family. And that even though she doesn't want to do it, that she should. She's the oldest sister, and she should be strong and she should be perfect. And they eventually sing this song about not being perfect, and she's covered in like paint and creates non-perfect looking flowers. Really great, message there. So no one's perfect, first of all. But I think maybe the more important lesson here is that nobody has a perfect life. If you look at Instagram or you look at siblings or whoever and you think that their life is perfect, it's not. Nobody has a perfect life. Everybody actually has really hard stuff. Like, usually it's not even just, oh yeah, like, I guess they struggled a little bit with this one thing. Usually people have something big, and if there's not something big right now, they probably went through something like that or will go through something like that. And so I think that that's important to create a little bit of empathy for those people who maybe aren't as kind to us as they should be, or maybe we're jealous of, and think like, wow, they have it all, I just wish I had that. It's probably not true. So keep that in mind. Number 4 of 6 is we can hurt the people we love when we are hurting, but there's room for forgiveness and reconciliation. So this made me think about Abuela. This woman frustrates me through this movie. She's not kind to Mirabel. She has really high expectations of everybody in her family. But then they have a way of just making you sob when you see what this woman went through and why she's so stoic and strong. When I have these moments in movies or even in real life where I'm like, oh, I see why they're that way. It's not to excuse how they treated people or the bad things that they've done, but it is good to know maybe why or where they're coming from, because all of us are imperfect. We've all done things that we shouldn't have. And with Abuela, what's important is that she recognizes that she has done wrong. And for some people, we may not see them have that recognition moment, at least not in this life. But we can still love them and forgive them in our own way, even if we don't allow them to hurt us anymore. So I think Abuela and Mirabel reconciling is a beautiful thing in this movie, because we see that humans are very flawed and families are very flawed, and it's hard to address conflict in families when it comes up, because we love these people so much, but we don't necessarily know how to navigate frustration with them. And so I think this movie is a beautiful example of a messy family that is able to come back and love each other. I also wrote down Bruno's name in this particular lesson because he's able to come back and join the family, and they just missed him. Even though they were frustrated with him and his prophecies and everything, once he's back, they realize, we just love this guy, you know? So almost like the story of the prodigal son coming home and his father just loving him and missing him and not thinking at all about all the mistakes he'd made. Lesson number 5 is our gifts and talents and the gifts and talents of others may not be obvious, but they are crucial. So, basically, the inciting incident of this movie, or what makes it a movie, is that Mirabel didn't get a gift. The rest of her family has gifts because of the miracle that her grandmother was given. Mirabel didn't get one. There might be some implications by the end of the movie that she does kind of have one within like the casita, but she doesn't get a specified gift when she's 5. And I think that a lot of us write ourselves off too quickly because maybe we're not the best at something. Maybe we're not amazing at something, but we all have gifts and we all have talents. And even though they may not be obvious or readily apparent to other people or even to ourselves, doesn't mean that they're not there. And they might even be really important because Mirabel ends up being the one who kind of brings the family back together and helps them to reconcile the conflict that's always been there. And so she is a very important part of their family. And I would say the same is true for you and for all of us within our families, within our wards, within our circles that we interact with. You matter, even if you can't define exactly why. Your presence is important. Okay, number 6. This is my last one. We all need community and support. We cannot do it alone. So the line in this movie that always makes me cry, there's so many, but when the casita falls down and they don't have their gifts anymore or whatever, and the gifts kind of end up coming back, which, whatever, but they need to rebuild their house and the whole town comes with tools and it's just like a big mob coming down the street, and they're like, lay down your load, we're only down the road. We have no gifts, but we are many. And they're there to help rebuild their home. And I thought about how we could be that way as a society. And I think in some occasions we are, but in some occasions we're not. But it's a really beautiful thing to see people come together to support other people. I think it happens in small ways. You know, when the elders quorum in the ward goes and helps a family move in or move out, or when the young women all go to visit a lonely widow or whatever it may be. We all need community and we all need support, and it's so easy to isolate in our current time because there's remote work now, which has its own benefits and I think is great. But it also has cons, like everything does. And I think one of those being, like, it's easy to just stay home. It's easy to get everything delivered. But community is not just important for the sake of, you know, getting out of your house, but you need people. You need connection. And so I would encourage you to find ways to build that and to take advantage of your community, the people who could help you and want to help you, and also be a part of one to serve others and help other people. So those are the lessons that I learned from Disney's Encanto. It's a beautiful movie. If you haven't watched it or haven't watched it in a while, check it out. So Thank you so much for listening. I'm so excited for next week. We have an interview with Michelle Pesnell. She's one of my friends from high school, and she is also a therapist. So I interviewed her, and we talked a lot about things that can help you guys feel better quickly. She also talked about what to expect from therapy if you feel like therapy is something you might need. So this is a great episode, so make sure you check it out next week and support Michelle. Thank you. Bye-bye.